What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode here, the Side Guys Football Forum. I'm one of your co-hosts on the side, joined as always by my good friend, my good buddy, the other FSI guys, Mr. Tad the Side. And Tad, we're here to close out our free agency preview. Earlier this week, we dropped our free agency preview for the offensive side of the ball. Today, we're going to be concluding that second half, doing the defensive side of the ball. And also, before we get into all of that, there is some news that we do need to break in case you haven't caught up with some of the recent, transactions that have happened across the NFL. So, let's sort of quickly catch up people in case they haven't heard this news yet. First, let's go with the Chicago Bears. They've actually made a news. So they cut Eddie Jackson about last week. I think want to say maybe earlier this week. Can't remember exactly what happened, but they've already replaced him with another safety. They have signed the recently cut by the Philadelphia Eagles safety, Kevin Byard. He is now a member of the Chicago Bears on a 2-year deal worth $15 million. So he is now joining the Chicago Bears to take Eddie Jackson's place, probably as a cost-cutting move as to why they cut Eddie Jackson. Now they signed a veteran in Kevin Byard, but at a lot lower of a cost. Very good safety there. Next move is this is a guy we talked about in our last episode, Tad. This is a guy that you said should re-sign with the team. And he got a huge deal with it.
And he did it. So he did it because know what? You know what? They listen to smart people. That's what ends up happening.
This is a strong case that he was going to go back, but yeah, it is actually confirmed. And that player that we're talking about is quarterback Baker Mayfield. He has re-signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, getting a 3-year deal, $100 million.
Way more than I thought. Way more than I thought.
Guarantee of $50 million as well. So, this guy is going to be getting a good chunk of change for sure. And it's about the same as what Mike Williams signed. He signed a 2-year deal. So, it looks like they're sort of playing this out with both of these guys to see, what's going to transgress over these next couple of years.
Mike Evans.
What did I say?
Mike Williams. At first, I was like, did Mike Williams resign? I was like, I didn't see that.
Bad. No. I meant to say Mike Evans. That's my bad.
But that goes into what I was talking about in yesterday's episode, which is $50 million guaranteed. Not bad for a quarterback. I know people are going to go, that's a lot of money. Yes, it is a lot of money. But compared to, like Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, guys like those who are getting, $250 million guaranteed? That's a pretty good discount for a quarterback.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's a good deal for Tampa Bay. Let's see if he can sort of replicate the season that he had last year and sort of continue that progress, the Bucs as a whole on offense, taking over for the recently retired Tom Brady. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes heading in 2024. The next news that I want to bring up is the Packers have designated linebacker Devondre Campbell as a post-June 1st release. So he was a big piece of their defense there. So he is no longer going to be a part of that team heading into 2024. So we'll see how that shakes up the defense there. The next one, Mac Jones. This quarterback class, Tad, of 2021 is shaping up to be the worst ones because pretty much everybody outside of Trevor Lawrence is now with the new team, and surprisingly, Mac Jones is now joining Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. He has been traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the draft compensation, I'm trying to find it here.
It was a 6th-round pick, if I'm correct, which is funny because a friend of mine
That's correct. Yeah, it was a 6th-round pick.
A friend of mine who's a Jets fan is like, oh, I don't like what that spells about Zach Wilson's value. And I just texted back, I'm like, what value?
So, yeah, just after a very tumultuous tenure in New England, Mac Jones now finds himself as a backup after being the 15th overall pick in that infamous. It's going to go down into infamous 2021 draft when it comes to quarterbacks for sure. So
I saw an Instagram post that Trevor Lawrence is the most successful quarterback to come out of that year's draft. His overall record is 20-32.
It's really tough with Trevor Lawrence because he had just that
it's not a perfect
very horrendous season with Urban Meyer that I think unfortunately skews things against him. But yeah, even after that, it's been a little bit of up and down for sure. But just, after him, it has been, a little bit eye-opening to see exactly how
rough.
all that talent played out. We'll see what happens with Justin Fields. Obviously, he was in that draft
I'm
as
still a
well.
believer.
So, but yeah, exactly. So we'll see exactly what happens there. But yeah, Mac Jones no longer with the Patriots. He is now a member of the Jacksonville Jaguars, backing up Trevor Lawrence. The next news that we want to get here, especially we're doing a free agency defensive episode here. Chris Jones signed a record 5-year deal, $95 million guaranteed.
Where are they finding this money?
I really don't know.
Do they have a Scrooge McDuck vault like stowed away in Arrowhead Stadium somewhere that we just don't know? I don't understand how this is possible.
They found a way to get it done. But yeah, he is sticking around in Kansas City, continued to see if they could build a dynasty out there in Kansas City after winning back-to-back Super Bowls now. So they're trying to go for the three-peat, and Chris Jones will be back in the fold to see if they can get that done. But yeah, he is still a member of the Chiefs, and he'll be there for quite a long time. And then the last news here, Tad, is Kendrick Bourne, not as big of a name as some of the other names that we listed, but Kendrick Bourne was probably the best receiver that the New England Patriots had this past season. Unfortunately, dealt with a ACL injury, so he didn't play a lot last season, but the season before, he was a key contributor for them. He signed a 3-year deal worth $33 million to return to the Patriots. So we'll see if they add to that receiver room, but if not, Kendrick Bourne is a pretty good piece for them, and it will exactly see what they do at quarterback for sure to see if they can sort of revitalize that offense. But yeah, that's the other probably quote-unquote bigger news that we have there, unless you got anything that I might have missed.
Yeah, it's a little bit of older news, but we can't forget about our boy, Justin Matabuke.
Matabuke did sign a big deal as well after the franchise tag. He did sign a huge deal. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but he has been locked up very similar to Chris Jones. I think it's like a 4-year deal, if I remember correctly.
4 years, $98 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I think it was like 4 years, 90 something around there. So yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, he has been locked up by the Baltimore Ravens as well. So he will not be hitting free agency. But yeah, as we're sort of listing out.
Wait, real quick. Sorry to interrupt. I have the official numbers here. 4 years and a crap ton of money.
accurate. Yeah, but yeah, he is returning to the Baltimore Ravens to see if whether they could get to the Super Bowl with that team there. They came so close, falling just a little bit short in that AFC Championship game. So we'll see exactly what happens there. But as we talked about, we're going to close out our free agency preview this week with this defensive heavy episode. Before we get into our actual picks again, let's definitely give a shout out to our great sponsors at Underdog Fantasy Tab, because I mean, they've been great sponsors with us for the past couple of months. And I mean, it's a great platform. If you haven't used the platform, we've been talking about it for a while here, but hey, maybe you've just been a little bit slow off the draw. Maybe you got other things going on. It's all right. But hey, we want to give you this sort of, a preview as far as what you could do on the platform. It's like you just make some picks across all sports. I know it's not NFL season right now, but I mean, we've talked about this before. You're able to bet on the 40-yard dash for the NFL Combine. So, I mean, they got you covered with some of these, like, sort of interesting things that you could bet on as well. You got NBA action happening right now. You obviously got MLB is going to be happening in just about a month. But you can also bet. They have it on the website as well as their mobile devices as well, the apps. You can bet on season long for the MLB as well. So it's not just the individual games, but you can go for that season long bets as well. So they got you covered there, but they got MMA, they got boxing, they got, college basketball is right around the corner. So, I mean, with March Madness, you definitely got some bets coming with Underdog Fantasy for sure. And it's really simple. All you got to do is make between 2 and 5 different prop bet picks. The more picks you make, the more potential money that you can win. And I mean, it's just really easy to get into. Just whatever you think you're more comfortable with. You just pick an over-under for all these various prop bet picks. And if you hit on all 5 or however many that you got, you'll win some money. So, I mean, yeah, best way that you can sort of get into all the action. Underdog Fantasy gave us a great promo code to double up on your initial deposit of $10 or more, up to $500. Use that promo code DESAI, DESAI, to, like I said, on your first deposit, only the first one, unfortunately, double up on your initial deposit of $10 or more, up to $500. Using that promo code you see on your screen. In case you're not watching us at YouTube, that promo code is DESAI, DESAI. So yeah, take advantage of that offer. Get into the action. Like we talked about right before March Madness starts. Next weekend, we have Selection Sunday, so that's when the bracket will be revealed. So sign up for the platform before all that goes down, because yeah, you're sure to get into some fun betting action right before March Madness starts. And definitely, if you're a baseball guy, you got about a month until the season starts as well. So I mean, yeah, lots of fun that you could be having with the MLB season once that kicks off as well. So once again, use that promo code DESAI, DESAI. Double up on your initial deposit of $10 or more, up to $500 on the Underdog Fantasy platform. So yeah, great platform. Please use it. They're great sponsors, and you'll have a ton of fun for sure. So Yeah, Ted, let's get into the defensive action here. So, I mean, you were going to do the same categories that we had before. We're going to talk about a guy that should return to the team that they were previously with, who's a more realistic signing that a team can sort of go after, and then who would be just a great fit, regardless of cap situation, roster need, whatever it is, just who would be a perfect fit. And these are all obviously defensive players. We did the offensive last week's episode. So in case you missed that, jump back and listen to our offensive episode. But yeah, let's get into the defense in today's episode, Tad. So let's start things off at the very beginning here. Let's go with the guy that you think should return to their side, a team that they were previously with in this past season. Who's better off sticking around?
Look, this is a tale as old as time, meaning as old as I've been following the NFL for about 20 years now.
Beauty of the Beast reference? I love it.
Is that Beauty and the Beast reference? Is that where that saying comes from?
Yeah, that's a very beginning
that
of the song.
Is not where that comes from. They did not come up. Okay, maybe they use
the very beginning of that song, Beauty and the Beast, in Beauty and the Beast. So it's like, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like the one that Belle sings where she
the
walks
one
down
that Mrs. Potts sing when they're dancing in the ballroom.
Oh, who the hell cares about that one?
Oh,
no, the big one is the ballroom one, Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. That's
that's the one where she's walking down the staircase.
Yeah, and who's singing? Mrs. Potts, not Belle, you idiot.
Shit, you're right.
God.
Man, I need to watch that again. See, I didn't watch the one with Emma Watson. It looks weird with all the CGI
you don't need to watch the remake. It's pretty much the exact same thing as the animated version.
They all are. They all are. Wow, really not the way I saw this segment going.
Disney talk on the podcast? Yeah, it's here. It's here.
All right,
we can go deep.
Tale as old as time. Like
there you go.
References. Oh God. Sorry, let me refocus. Look, I feel like every couple of years, a corner has a historic season, starts making a name for himself, and then he, rightfully so, wants to get his bag. Right? He wants to make the most of a historic season he likely will never repeat again. The problem is, how often does that corner repeat it or even have sustained success with a new team? Very rarely is my answer. So you look at guys like Nnamdi Asomugha is probably the best example of a guy who was, oh my God, he was so good in Oakland.
He was.
And then he was goddamn terrible in Philadelphia. You look at, kind of switching the other way, just to show I'm not being too biased. Josh Norman was really good in Carolina. Then he goes to Washington. I'm not saying he was terrible in Washington, but he was just never. Yeah, exactly. Just never quite the same. And then you have the perfect middle ground with Darrelle Revis, right? Like you had Revis Island in New York. Again, didn't suck everywhere else he went, but just wasn't quite the same thing. And I think there's a lesson to be learned here. Corner, if you are truly successful there, there's a healthy mix of your talent. I'm not taking anything away from these players, but they also need to realize there's a combination of your talent plus the right system mixed together. That's what's leading to you being outstandingly good. And unfortunately, I'm very afraid that this player, L'Jarius Sneed, is going to step into this trap of, I can do this anywhere. I'm not so sure. I think that Steve Spagnuolo, honestly, I was shocked that something must be in the water with these Kansas City coordinators. Like, I know Spags sucked as the Rams coach like 15 years ago. How has he not got another shot yet? He is amazing. He is a really good coordinator. So I think there's a definite mix of, L'Jarius Sneed is a talented corner. I think he is a good corner, but I think if he goes to any other team, it'd be a massive mistake. And Kansas City seems pretty willing to let him go, especially now that they signed Chris Jones. I think Sneed is now their top priority. But can they get it done? I don't know. Like I said, apparently they have a Scrooge McDuck vault somewhere in that stadium. So maybe they find out a way. But I think if I'm Sneed, I'm willing to take a pay cut because look at it this way. Even if I have sustained success in Kansas City for a bit of a pay cut, I have my name in the headlines for years to come. So then when I'm really ready to move on, now I can get the pay. You can get your payday later, man. Just make sure that you're a sustained, consistent name on defense. I think it would be a big mistake for Sneed to move elsewhere.
I'm kind of torn on this one. Like, I totally get everything that you're laying out here, but we sort of brought this up on the podcast before that his former running mate on the opposite side of the ball, Trevdavious White, he also was able to capitalize on great seasons with the Kansas City Chiefs, winning a Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs back in 2019. capitalized in the offseason, was able to get a pick day from the San Francisco 49ers because, I mean, this was one of the fun facts of the Super Bowl was that Trevdavious White played for the Kansas City Chiefs as a starting cornerback for them in the 2019 Super Bowl. For the exact opposite team at San Francisco, he was a starting quarterback for them in the most recent Super Bowl here in 2023. So, I mean, it is possible, and he still played at a very high level there with San Francisco, but yeah, I do agree that's like sometimes these corners, they just unfortunately, there's sometimes, whether it's a product of the system, whether it's a product of just like the team chemistry that made him look a lot better too. Because you listed off a lot of great names, but there's one other name that I thought of as far as like a guy that was able to capitalize because the system went elsewhere and he absolutely failed miserably. Do you remember Brandon Browner of the Legion of
Ooh,
Seattle?
that's a good one.
He signed a big contract, if I'm not mistaken, with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he just wasn't the same player because he wasn't in the same system back there with with Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman, obviously, a Bobby Wagner, all those guys there that just like he wasn't able to take control of the same situation when he was asked to be the guy. He absolutely fell short of that, and that contract looked like one of the worst of that offseason. And so
another big one that made me think of, because you're right, Browner is a great example that I totally blanked on. I don't know how this name escaped me. I literally just watched a YouTube video on how much he sucked last night, actually, after our show. JC Jackson is another great example.
Yeah, unfortunately, he has not lived up to expectations.
And that's my entire point. It's like they're just it's example after example after example of all these guys who do really well in a certain system, and they get a little too full of themselves, thinking like, oh, I can do this anywhere, and now you can't. I don't know what it is about that certain position with corner, but man, it's just as a risky move moving on from what works.
Yeah, but like I said, it worked clearly, like I said, with the team that he is currently on, and then he left at free agency. He was able to make it work at Trevdavious White. But yeah, there's plenty of examples of corners making that same mistake, and it just doesn't work wherever they go. So it's a fine line to tread, but I mean, luckily for the Chiefs, they tagged him. So I mean, he is under contract. So I don't know whether they're going to work a long-term deal with that.
Permission to seek a trade, though.
That is true. You're absolutely right on that. So I don't know for sure, but it's like pretty much he will play for the Chiefs this coming season. I don't see why he wouldn't. I don't think he'd be able. I don't think he would sit out, but obviously we'll see once the actual offseason sort of hits here. But it's like, yeah, I think most likely he will play under the tag if he can't find a trade. But yeah, if he does find a trade, he does land somewhere else. It's just like, yeah, it could go obviously either way. It's just very hard to tell. But yeah, why not return to a team that is very much the championship window is open as long as number 15 is playing under center on offense? It's just like, yeah, your window's open for sure. So
how about this? We'll see. How about this? So, because this would be a very Chiefs move. A certain corner who you and I both really like takes a surprise tumble, which honestly wouldn't surprise me that much. I could see this happening. And with the last pick of the first round, the Kansas City Chiefs select Quinyon Mitchell.
No, I don't want to I don't want to see that. I don't.
That'd be really insane. That would be so great.
I would hate it so much. That'd be the worst way to end day one of the draft if they draft Quinyon Mitchell. I couldn't take it. That
would be a very similar reaction to me when the Colts drafted Anthony Richardson. I just throw off my headphones, just walk off. I wouldn't even just do a sign off. Just end the episode without me.
Yeah, that would be painful to watch. But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't put it past them. That's
the Breaking Bad thing, man. They can't keep getting away with this.
So yeah, we'll see if that happens. But yeah, I would be very upset if that does end up happening. If he falls into their lap at the very last pick of the first round, just come on, people. What are we doing here? All right, so I'm going to get to my pick. Unfortunately, Tad, I had to pivot a couple of times, which obviously I was texting about.
This was unfortunate. This was so to let our viewers know is Amir, as per usual, had his notes done days ago. And he picked a certain player on the certain team, and I thought it was another player on the team, and I was like, well, you saw they re-signed Brandon Graham, right? And he was like, that's not the guy I picked. I was just like, oh, right. I got the wrong, really old pass rusher. My bad. And so yeah, that kind of spoils your pick. Sorry, but it was just funny because it's just like, how many old guys does this defense have?
Yeah, the team is on the older side because obviously we're talking about the Philadelphia Eagles here. So we just had Jason Kelce retire. Brandon Graham did return to the team. So he's coming back for his 13th season, if I remember reading correctly there. But yeah, the player that I was originally going to choose was Fletcher Cox, the defensive tackle. And I've said that he probably should come back to the team. He's been with the team for 12 seasons. It's like,
most do the same thing that Jason Kelce by an Eagle ever.
Exactly. So it's
record.
like, do the same thing that Jason Kelsey did, return to the team that you played your entire career with. I think it's just a little bit of an anomaly that happened last season with the Eagles. Hopefully they're able to fix all that. They'll be the same team that they were from 2022 heading into 2024. They've obviously cleared up some of the things, so we'll see about that. But just like, yeah, no need to go to another team for one season. I think he could have played well there. But he decided to call it quits. He is retiring officially after 12 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles. So I was like, all right, let me pick another player. So I was going to go with Willie Gay Jr., linebacker with the Kansas City Chiefs. But after doing a little bit of research there, it seems like the Chiefs and Willie Gay Jr. are going to be parting ways. There is an outside chance that he returns to the team, but it's looking more like he'll be signing elsewhere. So I was like, all right, can't really go with that one here. So I was like, looking at the rest of the defensive class, I was like, it was very difficult to pick this one as far as who
Like
should
we
return.
said yesterday, there are a lot of these guys where it's like, no, you should go.
Yeah,
Move.
exactly. So then I decided to look inwards. I looked at my own team. I was like, who's a guy that I think could most likely benefit from returning? And so I had to go with my own team here. So I went with Javon Kinlaw of the San Francisco 49ers at the defensive tackle position here. So I don't know if you remember, Ted, but he's a former first-round pick of the 2020 NFL draft. He was taken right after Tristan Wirfs was selected by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If you remember, there was that trade swap. The Bucs traded up that one spot to select
about that.
Wirfs. I remember that. So this is actually what happened. So they were able to get that pick there. He looked great in his rookie season. He made the all-rookie team in 2020. That was when we traded DeForest Buckner to your Indianapolis Colts. Seemed to be benefiting from both sides. At that time, it looked like a very good move for both teams there.
Both teams. You guys benefited. We benefited.
At the time, it did. But then unfortunately, Tad, in 2022 and 2021 and 2022, he dealt with season-ending injuries, both to the same knee. He sprained his ACL there, and so he was out for majority of the seasons of both of those seasons. Coming back here in 2023, there's a lot of just like, is he going to be the same guy? Can we sort of see him? Is the injury going to affect him too much? That's why the Niners declined his fifth-year option as to why he's hitting free agency this year as opposed to next year, because you have to make that declaration before the season starts, before that start of your fourth season. So they declined the option, but he ended up playing really well this season. He played all 17 games. So, I mean, that was fantastic to see. He racked up a good amount of sacks. He was getting a lot of pressures. He was filling in nicely when Eric Armstead was dealing with a foot injury towards the end of the season. But overall, we saw a lot of the flashes that we saw in his rookie season as to why he became the number 14 overall pick in that 2020 NFL draft. So, I mean, you look here, there's rumors here, Tad. I brought up Eric Armstead that if they can't negotiate as far as
how old is he, by the way? He's got to be up there.
He's in his early 30s, so I think he's like 31, 32.
I mean, that's pretty old for a long-time DD.
I think besides that, DD, designated. What's going on here? DT. But so they're looking to restructure his contract so they could get a little bit more cap flexibility. But in case that doesn't happen, there's a rumor, Ted, that he actually may get cut and become a cap. And if that becomes the case, Javon Kinlaw instantly can step in, play opposite Javon Hargrave at the defensive tackle position. Now you got a good tandem there. But in case, even if Eric Armstead stays, restructures his contract, this is a line that you want to learn from. Javon Hargrave, very good defensive tackle. Eric Armstead, very good defensive tackle. So it's like, why not stay, be a rotational piece? You're coming off those two injuries. Like I said, I don't know how much money you're going to command in free agency. Like maybe you'll get a very similar deal elsewhere, but it's like, why not stay with the system you're familiar with? Maybe take a short-term deal, 1, 2, maybe 3 years max. You're only 26. So I mean, you still got a lot of years ahead of you. Play with a very good defensive line coach in Chris Kasarik. He's been able to grow a lot of defensive linemen here in San Francisco. So it's like learn under him a little bit more and then maybe cash in a little bit later after you grow a bigger name for yourself. Get over that injury bug that's kind of on you right now. So for me, I think it makes more sense for him to come back and really just sort of build up on a solid 2023 season. But if he does leave, I don't blame him. He's sort of blocked here with Hargrave and Armstead in case Armstead does renegotiate. But I think he's better off staying. But like I said, that's maybe a little bit more of the homer card there with the bias there. But honestly, like I said, with the injuries, it's hard to sort of imagine him getting a big contract elsewhere. So it really would be, I just need a new scenery to sort of get a fresh start.
Now, for once, I'm actually not going to scream homer at you. I think this is an excellent pick. Like you said, there's a difference, right, between these draft busts, quote unquote, that, truly bust. And take it from me, I'm a Colts fan. We've busted on plenty of pass rushers where it's like, Quiddy Pay? Yeah, he's a bust. Oh, did he get hurt? No, he just sucks. Yeah. And like, there's a difference though. Is like you said, like as soon as Kinlaw got healthy, then he finally started to, consistently produce for you guys. And, yes, I'm biased as well because I was a massive Kinlaw guy going in that year's draft. And I remember being so mad that San Francisco got him. I'm like, come on, like, you already have all these guys on D-line. You can't have one more. And
you have to remember that was after the year that we were in the Super Bowl. So it's like, now you had this guy to that Super Bowl team. It's just like, come on.
And it goes in what we were talking about yesterday, where you build winning teams through the trenches. And it just proves that, no matter, exactly, defensive and offensive line. And no matter, how long it takes, if you just have a body to fill in to that gap that is capable, then you're good to go. And he is still a very talented defensive tackle. So no, I completely agree with everything you said. And this is why I love this term. Give him a 1-year prove it deal. I love players on a 1-year prove it deal because if they do what exactly it demands, they usually more than often prove themselves, and then they make a big payday with another team, and you're just like, fine, we did you solid with the 1 year. Exactly. You go off, earn that paycheck. Meanwhile, we don't need to worry about you. So I think a 1-year prove it deal would be just like chef's kiss for the Niners. That's one less position you guys have to worry about. And, Kinlaw, like you said, go with the devil you know. Don't go with the devil you don't know. Why introduce all these? It's the same argument I was making for L'Jarius Sneed. Why go with all these unknowns that you don't know, that you're not quite sure if it's going to work out or not? Like, you're just taking a lot of unnecessary gambles. So no, I really like this pick. I want to revert back to your original player, though. Just real quick. Will the number 91 be retired in Philadelphia?
That's a good question.
I'm saying yes. I'm going yes.
There's a good chance. He meant a lot to that ball club for a long time. And yeah, he's a critical piece of their Super Bowl run, obviously in 2017. Critical piece of that team for a long time. So I think, very much in consideration. I can't guarantee it, though. But yeah, I think probably down the line, maybe give it like 3-4 years. I think it could happen.
I think number retired, I don't see Fletcher Cox as a Hall of Famer.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with
number
that.
Eagles
Hall of Fame? Yes.
Eagles Hall of Fame, 100%. Well, I think that kind of goes hand in hand. Or number gets
That's
retired.
True. That's very true.
Yeah, but no, like NFL Hall of Fame, no way.
If you get your number retired, it's like, nope, you're not good enough for our top team.
Just that'd
be weird.
I've always wondered that if a player's like wearing number 45, it's like, should we just retire it? No one's gonna wear that anyways. Like Mike Allstott is just like, just number 40. No one's gonna wear 40 again. Okay, just just throw 40 up there in the ring.
All right, Ted, let's get to our next category here. So these are guys that we actually predict will leave in free agency, but these are more realistic signings. So, it's a good fit with the team. It fits with their cap flexibility. All of that is sort of makes sense here. So what's a realistic free agency signing that you got here?
So I actually I instantly knew the position in the team. I just had to find the right player to make that fit. And I kid you not, I made like 3 bullet points worth of notes with one player before I ultimately decided, you know what? I don't like it. I moved on. Speaking of the 49ers, my original pick was Chase Young signs with the Detroit Lions.
Oh, there's actually, I've heard a lot of articles about that. They want to pair him up with Aiden Hutchinson. Like that'd be a good pass.
Exactly. And my whole thing was like, he has, effort issues, but like what better coach than Dan Campbell to, fix that and stuff. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, why would they do this? Why? Like, that's just a very unnecessary risk. I'm just like, yeah. And look, those effort issues, I think, are a little overblown, but they're still there. There's definitely some truth to that. And so I was thinking, like, no, the Lions have a very, very small window. They got another year, maybe 2, before they really have to reevaluate this roster. So, like, why mess around with the potential, character concern? So I looked elsewhere at the other defensive lineman, and all of a sudden I saw a name. I was like, ooh, that's interesting. So I'm saying the Detroit Lions sign Leonard Williams to a 2-year contract, maybe with a player option, maybe with a team option, doesn't really matter, whatever, floats whoever's boat. Point being, that is the first time I said that saying in quite a while. Point being is Leonard Williams is a 29-year-old experienced vet who has had as far as we know, no character issues. He is a good leader. That's why Seattle wanted him in the first place. And here's another key thing. He has experience at both defensive tackle and defensive end. He has that versatility that Chase Young doesn't quite have as well. So that makes him even more valuable. And here's another crazy stat while I was looking all this up. Remember, other than Aiden Hutchinson, the obvious choice, over/under, 2 Lions had over 5 sacks. other than Hutchinson.
Other than Hutchinson, 2 Lions.
5 sacks.
I know one of the Aquaras was pretty good for them.
Mhm.
Probably got 5 sacks, but I don't think anybody else on the team. So I'm going to say under.
You are correct, but wrong with the player.
Oh, was it Aquara? Okay.
Aquara had 2 sacks.
2 sacks. Okay.
Lee McNeil was second on the team with
Lee McNeil.
Lee
Nice.
McNeil, the defensive tackle.
Out of North Carolina State, right?
You are correct, sir.
Nice.
He was second on the team with 5 sacks.
Exactly 5.
Exactly 5, meaning Aiden Hutchinson led this team by a mile with 11 and a half. He needs help. They need pass rush help immediately.
Really quick, Dad. He's my dark horse to win Defensive Player of the Year in 2024.
Hutchinson?
Yeah.
That's a good one. And what better way to help him than cause pressure on the other side?
Support. I agree. I agree.
So he's not getting double teamed because I agree. He is so good. He is the next Myles Garrett, in my opinion. I completely agree with you.
I think so.
He is amazing. But the problem is you can't just rely on a one-man defensive line. You can't do it.
Very true. Very true.
So you got to get some help there. And what better way? Aiden Hutchinson is still under 25. Get Leonard Williams in there. You have a veteran presence on the defensive line, a veteran presence for that defense in general. And you can get him on the cheap because, I mean, I'm aware he's going to have a lot of suitors, but no one's really, throwing 5-6 year deals at this guy. So if I'm Leonard Williams, I'm sitting there going, okay, I got Hutchinson. So I'm not going to be, like the guy on the defensive line. I'm still going to have my opportunities. I'm still going to get good money from Detroit because, by the way, Detroit has the 9th most money to spend this offseason. Mm-hmm. So they can still give him a pretty good contract. And on top of all of this, I'm playing for a contender. It's a win-win for both sides. So Leonard Williams to Detroit, make that shit happen right now.
I agree with that. And especially like you said, with the flexibility too. So like that sort of gives you, once again, to use the word again, flexibility on your defensive front, where it's like you can either operate out of a 4-man front, you go with the 3-man front, get yourself more secondary help in case you're going into passing down, or you keep it the standard 4, like I said, and you run a more traditional offense with the 4-3 and then just your 4 defenders in the back. So I mean that gives your defense, Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, there a lot of flexibility to sort of mix and match his cover schemes as well. So yeah, exactly. So it's like you sign a guy like Leonard Williams who could play all over the defensive line. You pair him up with Lee McNeil as well, who is obviously clearly the second best pass rusher on that team. It's like you got that flexibility. You got Williams coming up the front. You either got him on the outside to come off the edge there with Aiden Hutchinson. So I mean, it's just like very good move to add to a very, emerging defense there on the NFC and in the NFL whole. So I mean, just like, yeah, I like this take a lot better than your Kyle Trask take. Like, I mean, just, yeah, way better.
Go fuck yourself.
Honestly, you would have been better with Boulevard Trask as opposed to Kyle.
Oh, come on! You're gonna pull an X-Men reference on me, you son of a bitch. That's my realm. You stay out of that. That is my category. You weren't even watching the Oscars tonight. I had to turn it off.
What do the Oscars have to do with the X-Men?
I don't know. Ryan Gosling's there. He might be the new Gambit. Who the hell knows? Anyway.
Oh, I
would actually. That would be great casting. Shit, I forgot what I was gonna say. But no. On top of that, and again, I know the Chase Young thing is exciting and promising because he's younger and he's got the bigger name. But at the same time, it's just like I said, Detroit has a very small window. Jared Goff only has like 2 or 3 years left on his deal. If I'm Detroit, I'm like, I don't even want to bother. Okay, character concern. I don't care. No, I'm not dealing with any of this BS. As good as Dan Campbell is, and no coach has changed my mind more than Dan Campbell. I was giving that guy shit years ago, and now I'm like, yeah, I run through a wall for that guy. And I was making fun of people for saying that 2 years ago. And so he is a good coach, but at the same time, you just don't have the time to mess around with that BS. I understand the appeal of Chase Young, but at this point, I'm not dealing with it when I have better veterans out there. And, there's one other guy out there I think the Lions should prioritize, but we're going to touch on him in a little bit.
All right. So I'm going to go with one of my picks here. And we're sort of talking about the safety class as far as like all the options that are out there and sort of the limited options that we have as far as the NFL draft is concerned. Well, I wouldn't say limited, but just like your pickings are very, it's a lot questionable, right? Where it's just like, we don't know the exact talent. It's just like, we got some guys that look sort of good, but just like not quite sure whether that's going to translate to the NFL. Just like, not the best talent for sure for this year's safety class in the NFL draft. But on the free agent class, there's a lot of great names out there. And who needs a safety? talking about LAFB Network, we talked about the Chargers in our offensive episode. I'm going to go to the other team here, the Rams. They're going to be losing potentially both of their safeties, their free safety and their strong safety in John Johnson III and Jordan Fuller. Potentially, they may decide to resign, but in case they don't, I got an option for them. The Bills just had to go through a huge cost-cutting move here. They released a lot of great veterans, including their safety, Jordan Poyer. I think Jordan Poyer coming into Los Angeles here gives them a veteran presence on a very, young, sort of quote-unquote inexperienced defensive front there, with the exception of Aaron Donald. He's the most veteran player on that entire defense. You add a guy like Jordan Poyer, who's now the quarterback on the back end of the defense. You got a guy who could be your leader in the front in Aaron Donald. Now you got a guy who could be your anchor on the back end. He's a veteran presence, obviously. He's great coming up against the run, great pass coverage. I know this past season he wasn't all that great, but here's some numbers, Tad. In 7 seasons with Buffalo, he's recorded at least 90 total tackles in 6 of them. 4 of those seasons, he had over 100 tackles. I mean, this guy is a tackling machine. He's also a ball hawk on the back end. He's recorded at least 4 interceptions in 5 of the 7 seasons that he's played in Buffalo. So, I mean, this guy can go all over the place in coverage. He could come into the box and be a great run defender as well. Now, you look at Jordan Fuller, who is their current safety in the position here. He had a very good season with the Rams last year. He had 94 total tackles, 8 passes defended, 3 interceptions, and 3 forced fumbles. But with those numbers, that you can actually, we're talking about contract years. You could carry that into free agency. You could be like, hey, I could cash in with another team. So I think there's a very strong possibility, especially when your defensive coordinator leaves to go coach another team. It's like, maybe he goes to Atlanta and follows Raheem Morris. Maybe he goes to another team. He's like, I like playing for Raheem Morris. Maybe I don't know how I feel about Chris Shula. I know there's a lot of positivity around Chris Shula, but it's like, maybe he just doesn't feel the same way. He's like, you know what? I appreciate my time here, but I'm going to go cash in, play with another team. That's a possibility. But if they do re-sign him, then Jordan Poyer obviously does not become an option. But if Jordan Fuller decides to leave, Jordan Poyer becomes a very good option here. Like I said, that veteran presence to a young defense, especially when you have that window open right now. Like, we're sort of having some question marks as far as how the Rams were going to look last season. They became a playoff team. They're very competitive.
Surprising playoff team.
The emergence of Puka Nacua, I mean, that changed a lot of things. Kamren Williams down the stretch was fantastic for them. Matthew Stafford had a resurgent season. So it's like all those pieces plus this defense, like I said, with all those question marks, they actually came together really well and became a strong unit for them. So yeah, now you go into year 2, add a guy like Poyer, you got Aaron Donald, obviously you build up on what you had on the offense. Now you know some of these names. You could become a very competitive piece in the NFC now. So yeah, if Jordan Fuller doesn't resign, Jordan Poyer, very, very suitable replacement.
Where were these Rams in St. Louis?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ted. I really am. Not all you have is St. Louis pizza. Like, I mean, you don't even have the Rams.
Oh, come on! Why would you put that on me?
I'm sorry.
It's cracker with cheese. It's not.
It was pretty bad.
It was bad. It was bad.
If you like the crispiness, because I was in St. Louis when we went to Philadelphia. I told you this, obviously, but I was in St. Louis. We specifically had St. Louis.
You even went somewhere I've never even heard of. Which
it was near the airport. We didn't have a lot of time.
That does not make it better.
I know, but the crispiness was fantastic. But yes, everything else was like
cracker.
I'll pass. So yeah, sorry, buddy. Sorry.
Anyway, this is why I'm saying this. Is because like we said, God damn it, I hate them so much. I love you, LAFB, but damn, this is hard sometimes. Just when I think, okay, the Rams are heading in a rebuild. Now let's see how loyal LA is. And now I'm about to take my victory parade. Like you said, they get goddamn Bakua. Then Kamren comes in and fixes their absolute mess of a running back situation.
Very true. Very true.
Just like, and then Sean McVay, who I thought was going to leave for a broadcasting job,
looked like he was on the outs. Yeah, looked like he had his foot out the door, and then
so goddamn good. Now they draft so well. Like, it's insane. They find all these sleepers. They have all these young pieces, exactly like what you were saying. And for those of you going, what the hell was Tad saying while you were talking of like,
pair them up, have a first round pick again this year. So, I mean, yeah.
I hate him. But for the people being like, what the hell was Tad saying about pair them up while you were talking? You're talking about Jordan Fuller leaving. What about Jordan Fuller and Jordan Poyer together?
It's true. Poyer does have a little bit of flexibility that they both can play at the same positions because they have spots in both. Yeah.
put Fuller free safety, Poyer at strong safety. That's honestly, that's probably the best safety duo in the league right there.
It could be. Very well could be.
And so, no, it's one of those things that's like, this is why I hate them so much, because they're doing such a good job of rebuilding, but at the same time, competing and contending is because the contending window is coming to a close. They need to figure out this quarterback situation, but the good news is you have at least one more year until you got to figure it out. They are in no rush to figure that out. So Poyer is the exact type of veteran, kind of last ditch piece you bring in to kind of, as you also said, complete that defense. Mm-hmm. And it just makes total sense. It just provides more veteran leadership. It provides a guy that, the coaching staff doesn't really need to worry about. And it fills a need. It's perfect. And I hate everything about it. I put it with Mark Bulger for fucking 7 years.
Mark Bulger.
Fucking Ty Hill.
Fantastic time.
Adam Archuleta.
I remember that name for sure.
Jason, oh God, what was his name? What was the tackle at Baylor? Jason Smith. Jason Smith,
yeah, out of Baylor. Number 2 overall pick. That did not work out at all, clearly.
Was the fucker out of Auburn? Greg Robinson?
Yeah, Greg Robinson. Was he at? No, yeah, that was Auburn, I think. Yeah, that was Auburn. Yeah. Unfortunately,
it was our fault for not going to the games.
Adam Carricker, right? He was
come on!
I'm sorry. I totally remembered his name too. I was like, who's that defensive end?
Nebraska.
Adam Carricker
out of Nebraska. Richie Incognito.
Right.
He flipped me off once. Fun fact.
But yeah, honestly, I think like we talked about, there's a lot of great safeties out there. If it's not Poyer, they got some other options. They can steal within their own division. Buda Baker is available as well. Maybe they'd go that route. We talked about Justin Simmons being recently released by Denver. That would be a great option as well. Quandre Diggs also within the division, stealing from Seattle. So, I mean, they got a good options on the free agent market in case they don't re-sign the guys that they have. But yeah, they have a very good window right now. You add a piece to that safety as far as a veteran presence, and yeah, they become a very strong contender once again in 2024. I know you don't like hearing it, but I mean, it is kind of the truth. And I hate to say it too, Tad. I'm a Niners fan. You don't think I like saying this? You don't like the fact that I picked Jordan Poyer? Like, I don't like it either, but it's a very plausible cause because that's the whole point of this one. It's a realistic sign, right? So
Marty Gilliard was our 3rd round pick.
I don't even remember that.
He was a receiver out of Cincinnati when Cincinnati was like number 4.
Wow.
I was so excited for that.
All right, so we're talking about all these, drafts here. Let's get to some, perfect fit free agent signings here. So, I mean, just a guy that's like, regardless of whether the cap situation will work, whether they even have a priority need at this particular position, but just like, who's a guy that can sort of be a addition on the defensive side of the ball to any team here that's just like, you know what? This could make this team a possible sneaky contender in their respective division or possible conference as well. So who's a guy that you think fits that category here?
So I think this team could be a real sneaky contender.
Okay.
I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to them. They clearly have not gotten nearly as much media attention as they deserve, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Another chief that you're going to bring up in today's episode. Fantastic.
Well, potential chief. Potential chief. Because I am truly going, like, when we did offense, I try to go kind of like somewhat realistic with this, where it's like, okay, this could happen. This one, I'd be absolutely shocked if this happened. If it did, I'd be like, okay, yeah, no, game's over. Just call it already.
Thanos getting the 6th.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, Vision's dead. He's great over there. It's just like, all right. Like, it's just, that's Anthony Richardson's body over there. It's just like, call it, throw the flag. If this happened, and it is a fit as well, position wise, this is the best defense in the NFL because they almost already are the best defense in the NFL. How crazy would it be if Kamren Curl joined the Kansas City Chiefs?
Ooh, that's it's one of those moves like we talked about kind of our last episode where it's like Laken Tomlinson signing with the Niners is like one of those moves you're going to be like, this is a good move, but it's not going to like, eye-popping headlines, sort of thing. But it's like same thing here where it's just like not a lot of people know about how good Kamren Curl is in Washington, but it's like he signs with Kansas City. He has such a great season there. Everybody's going to be like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah,
it's going to be one of those.
And it's just plausible. Again, I don't think it's going to happen, but it's just plausible enough where it's like, shit, this may happen. And the one thing is like, if Kamren Curl is willing to take enough of a pay cut, this could actually happen. Where
And why not? Honestly, leaving Washington to go to Kansas City, it's like two polarizing franchises as far as like one is not going in the right direction, one is clearly in the right direction. So it's like, why not make that move?
and it's just all about like, does Kamren Curl want that payday or does he want a contender? Because if it's the latter, this is absolutely in the realm of possibility. Because he's a 25-year-old safety, very, very good dual threat safety, pretty good in run coverage, much better in pass coverage, can play. He's better at the free safety position, but he can play the strong safety position also. And on top of that, you look at what the Chiefs have been doing at the safety position for the last couple of years. Streamlining is the best word for it. They had Tyrann Mathieu in there. And then last year they had Brian Cook. And then they had former Colt, Mike Edwards as well. Mike Edwards, I'm a big fan of his, very underrated safety, but they've just kind of been like, who's this one-year guy we can keep throwing in there and just kind of
signed Justin Reed from Houston, the really good safety from
Justin Reed
a couple years ago. So
exactly. So like they just keep kind of like throwing people in there on 1-year deals, be like, this is it. With Kamren Curl, if you can get him on a 3-4 year kind of cheapish contract, all of a sudden you plug up that huge hole in your roster without breaking the bank. And like we talked about, you have a very good dual threat safety on that defense on a discount. And man, I mean, you look at like what that division's head towards. The Broncos are clearly headed for an upgraded quarterback. The Raiders are clearly headed for an upgraded quarterback. Obviously, you have the Chargers with Justin Herbert. Need as much pass defense as you can get, and you get loaded up at safety for cheap when everyone's gun for your head as the new dynasty. That's a pretty good get. And on top of everything else, I mean, you have you have Chris Jones, Kamren Curl, and Nick Bolton. That is a very, very good core because Nick Bolton, in my opinion, is the most underrated, not even linebacker, the most underrated defensive player in the NFL today. So all of a sudden you have a very good player at all three levels of the defense.
Yeah, it's
scary, right?
I wouldn't like it at all. Once again, it's very much like Quinyon Mitchell going to the Chiefs at number 32. It's like, this would be very much one of those moves where it's like, once again, not everybody's going to bring a ton of attention to it. But once the season begins and you see how good this guy is now in a more capable defense, I should say, yeah, people are going to be like, how did this guy go unsigned by all 31 other teams?
It's like Paul. Yeah, screw it. We already made an X-Men reference. I'll make a Dune reference. It's Paul Atreides. We just having the Atreides, whatever. They're having the nightmare visions of the future, and they're like, "What'd you see?" It's like something terrible. This is it. It was like, "What'd you see?" Something terrible. What was it? Kamren Curl with the Chiefs.
Yeah, no, I very much liken it to that exactly. So yeah, this would be such a good move for the Chiefs and just a very underrated move that will pay huge dividends for them, and the rest of the league will just be like, how did this happen? Exactly.
And they might let it happen because from what I've seen, Curl's not generating all that much interest.
Once again, because it's just like people are not going to target Washington as far as like, oh, this is the place we need to go get our free agents from. So yeah,
because he's
very
good.
Much could happen.
We are telling you right now, people, this guy is a day one starting safety for any team out there.
He already has been a starting safety in Washington, but just once again, you go.
It's Washington. Like that's the whole goddamn problem.
Overlooked. So,
God damn it, Dan Snyder.
Well, optimism is there. They got new ownership there, so we'll see how.
Oh yeah, because that worked out well for Carolina.
Yeah, we'll see. But I'm gonna go with the bigger name here as far as a splash signing that a team can make, and I don't know if this would work out because you brought up a player that could side with this team in our offensive episode, so I don't think both signings can work together. But I'm gonna see if we can sort of make this happen here.
You go ahead and actually leave that point alone because I actually have something to talk about with this. This is why I did the math yesterday.
Okay, interesting. So the team that I talk about is the Atlanta Falcons. And if you remember from our previous episode, this is all I'll say here, Tad, is that Tad predicted, or not predicted, but he's saying that a plausible signing would be Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta. And that would be sort of a big move. That would take up a lot of their cap space, even though they have some good money there. But the player that I'm predicting that could be a good addition to the Atlanta Falcons on the defensive side, Danielle Hunter. He is going to be a free agent this year. He has been sensational the last handful of seasons with the Minnesota Vikings. I know Minnesota wants to resign him.
I've been saying Danielle this entire time.
I keep hearing Danielle when I hear the broadcast and all that stuff, so I think it's Danielle Hunter. But anyway, so
Matabuco.
There's a chance that, because the Minnesota Vikings are trying to prioritize Kirk Cousins to resign there, they may not be able to have enough money to re-sign Danielle Hunter. And so in that case, Danielle Hunter may have to leave. But in case Danielle Hunter is available for them because Kirk Cousins leaves, there's a good chance he stays in Minnesota. But regardless, I like him as a fit here in Atlanta because we talked about this before when we were talking about Kirk Cousins, the Atlanta situation last year, was just that their offense was good, but it could have been so much better if they were actually competent as far as using their playmakers. And the quarterback play was, so average at best. Their defense was able to keep them in games a lot of the time, but just unfortunately, because of that offense, it prevented them from being really competitive in that division. Even though they had a chance towards the end of the season to still remain alive in the playoff picture, possibly win the division, it's just like, just the, anemic style of the offense with Arthur Smith. It just didn't work out, even as good as the defense was able to keep them in the game. But now you got Raheem Boris, who's obviously a lot smarter of a defensive head coach and a coach overall. That's like, I'd like to think that things are going to be a lot better here 2024 for the offense. And of course, maybe he'll give a shot in the arm to the defense as well. That was already a pretty good unit. You got a lot of great players on that defense where you got guys like Grady Jarrett on the defensive line, Jesse Bates at the back end that they signed from Cincinnati. AJ Terrell was a great corner that they drafted out of Clemson. Caden Ellis, one of their linebackers, was really good. And a guy that you said could be a cap casualty, but if they hang on to him, really good pass rushing piece in Lorenzo Carter. So, I mean, you add Danielle Hunter to this lineup, and all of a sudden you have a very strong defensive unit. Hunter has made the Pro Bowl in 4 of the 5 last seasons. He has been an All-Pro in 3 of those 4 seasons as well. The one season he didn't do it, Tad, he missed 7 games because of a season-ending neck injury. So, I mean, if he wasn't out that season, probably would have been 5 for 5 in Minnesota. That's how good this guy has been in recent history. So, it's really going to be a situation of just whether the Vikings want to prioritize Kirk Cousins or whether they want to prioritize Danielle Hunter, because I don't see a situation where they'll be able to keep both. But I do see, based on how you're linking up Kirk Cousins to Atlanta in last time's episode, Danielle Hunter could be the other option that could come to Atlanta to really shore up that defensive front, bring another piece to that defensive edge as far as a pass rusher is concerned. And yeah, honestly, they would be strong contenders to win the NFC South if that does happen. And plus, like I said, if you could sort of add some points here as far as to make it work with both Cousins and Hunter as members of the Falcons, they're dark horse candidates in the NFC overall. Like, I like them that much.
I was just about to say, fear is the mind killer, and the Falcons could very well be the Vikings killer right here. Because so here's what I meant earlier when you were like, I don't think they could fit both. This is why I ran the math yesterday, because I anticipated this conversation.
That's fair.
So going back to yesterday's episode, for those of you who were not watching, is the Atlanta Falcons, after cutting Jonnu Smith, currently sit around $40 million in cap space. Should they cut Taylor Heineke, Mike Hughes? I know you said, they might keep him, they might not. Fair enough. But let's assume they do. Lorenzo Carter and Richie Grant, not Richie James. Richie Grant, if they cut all 4 of them, that cap availability shoots up to about $60 million, around 61, 62. Now, let's assume they sign Kirk Cousins to a 2-year, 3-year, whatever, it really doesn't matter, $100 million fully guaranteed contract, aka worst case scenario for the Falcons. They don't want to do that, but let's assume that happens. That's
the thing that worries me as far as trying to get both. If
Kirk let's talk about hold on. The one time I did math, let me make it worth it. So $60 million, right? He signs a 2-year, $100 million contract. Now, I don't know if you're like me. Originally, I assumed, that means that's $50 million worth of the 2024 cap. However, apparently not the case. From all the research I've done, that eats up about $25 million of the 2024 cap, which means if they make those cuts, that leaves, this is not a bit, I'm actually doing this real time, about $35 million left.
There you go. Good math. Good job.
Oh, thank God I teach reading. So meaning that there is enough space there to keep signing people, which is why I think, I made that prediction in our last episode of this is a plausible signing, is that they can make moves to sign Kirk Cousins without completely hamstringing the rest of their moves in this offseason or next. So Hunter, even if he's demanding an ungodly amount of money, which he isn't, or should he, they can land both. And they should. I completely agree with this move, is because especially if you get Kirk Cousins, that is a move of we're moving now. We got to get going on this. And Hunter is a guy, and this is what I mentioned earlier in this episode of, I almost put him with the Lions, but I didn't want to step on your toes too much. Like, I think the Lions should go after him above all else.
That'd be a good move. Once again,
Exactly.
within the division, those are great moves to make.
Within the division, you get the veteran leadership, all of, those pluses. So I completely agree with everything you've said, but it is very much in the realm of possibility for them to land both Cousins and Hunter. And I absolutely, I see no reason why they shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, if it plays out exactly like you're laying out, then I mean, yeah, 100% they can keep both guys or sign both guys, excuse me, and sort of keep them as far as keeping the Super Bowl potential window open here with sort of like a complete team, especially with all the playmakers that they were able to invest as far as rookies, because that's the biggest thing you can take advantage of too, where it's like you got Bijan and Drake London and Kyle Pitts, all these guys on rookie contracts still. So it's like, this is your time. If you can get a veteran quarterback to take advantage of that, for some reason, Arthur Smith couldn't, but it's like, if you could take a quarterback to now be able to play within that offense and really take advantage. You can have a very potent offense. You add Danielle Hunter on the defensive side. Now you got a very well-rounded defense as well. It's just like, yeah, there'll be strong contenders in the NFC South. And like I said, very sneaky contenders in the NFC overall as well. So crazy how quick things can turn when you make just, 2 signings like that.
I am so starting a Falcons.
Plus you add to the fact, sorry, Tab, but you have the number 8 overall pick too.
That's what I said yesterday. And that's the thing is, like, if you spend your resources wisely in free agency, then all of a sudden you have a very valuable resource, number 8, where either you can do one of two things. Either one, approach, like we said, okay, you got cut Mike Hughes, you got to cut Lorenzo Carter, you got to cut, notice I'm not including Heineke in this, you got to cut a couple guys there, but great. This cornerback class is very deep. This pass rushing class is very deep. And here's the best part about it. Neither one of those, position groups are very top heavy, meaning like, at that point where they are at, what'd you say, number 8?
Yep. Number 8.
At number 8, all the, the top corner is probably going to be gone by then. The top rusher is probably going to be gone by then. Find some sucker to trade down with, collect some draft capital, and you can get a pass rusher just as good as number 10 and number 20. In this year's draft. Like if they play their cards right, the Falcons can set themselves up for a dynasty of success. And I really mean that. I know people are going, by signing 36-year-old Kirk Cousins. Yeah, because you just bought yourself 3 years to find your next quarterback.
Very true. Very true. But honestly, at number 8, I could see them still very much, and obviously we'll get into this in a future episode because it's coming to the end of this one, but just like at number 8, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that either the top corner or the top pass rusher could still be on the board there. So you could still see a Jared Verse. You could still see a Laiatu Latu. You could still see a Terriot Arnold. You could still see a Nate Wiggins. You could possibly see a Quinton Mitchell.
All those guys are going to be available.
You have those options at number 8.
But you have those options, but all those guys are, well, not all of them, but most of them are going to be available from 15 to 20 as well. Right. So trade down.
You're absolutely right. So
Jerry Jones is a moron. Take advantage of Jerry Jones. He's a geriatric.
So you got either option there that's like you can either stay and pick at number 8 and you could secure one of those top level talents at either pass rush or edge rush. Pass rush or corner. Or, like you said, you could trade down and still get a very, very high-level player at either of those positions, too, and still, get some draft capital on top of that, too. So, yeah, if Atlanta Falcons to make these moves, like you said, they could set themselves up to compete for quite a few years going forward.
They are honestly low-key one of the teams most well set up going into this offseason. All I'm saying is when that phone rings on draft night and the area code says Indianapolis, just don't pick up.
Very, very logical reasoning there for the Falcons to not pick up that phone. All right, Ted, that'll close out our free agency episode for the defensive side of the ball here. If you missed it, we talked about it. We did our free agency offensive preview episode just a couple nights ago. So make sure you turn back and listen to that episode as well, or watch it on YouTube as well. But guys, I mean, we're still going to be going with the free agency for a little bit here because we have free agency starting. The new league year is happening on Tuesday. So, I mean, yeah, we're going to be... Exactly. We're going to be coming to you with all the, free agency fits as far as fantasy is concerned. We are still your number one source for fantasy football for sure. So we'll give you our fantasy takes as far as that first wave of free agency. So make sure you look out for that. But then after that, I mean, Tad, we've already been talking about it. We're going to go heavy on the tape. We're going to start releasing our position rankings. We'll probably do a post-free agency wave 1 mock draft to see how that affects the top 10 and possibly later than that. So, I mean, there's just a lot of things that is going to be coming down the pipe here with our podcast here. Best way to find out about all of that, or if you want specific things that you want us to cover, hit us up on our social media handles. You got to come across the screen there. You got us on Twitter. You got me at UpTheSide23, Tad the Side94, got show handle at the Side Guys, and of course at Instagram at the Side Guys as well. Hit us up. Let us know what you want us to talk about. We will definitely try and bring that up in a future episode for you, or we'll just answer directly on social media in case we can't get to it on our podcast episode. But guys, make sure you subscribe where you listen to your podcast so you're always up to date with our podcast episodes. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And guys, we said this already, but please support our parent network at LAFB Network. They're giving you a lot of great content when it comes to the Rams and the Chargers. Like we said, the Chargers are picking number 5. The Rams actually have a first-round pick, so they're giving you a lot of great
first time in almost a decade.
It's been a long time, but yeah, definitely, dust off the cobwebs there. They're actually making a pick in the first round this year for now. We'll see exactly what happens if they decide to trade back, but they're giving you a lot of great content as far as potential picks there at both of those positions there for both teams. And of course, there's a lot of news surrounding the Trojans and the Bruins when it comes to the college level as well. So guys, they're giving you a lot of great content on their social medias as well as on the website and their various YouTube and podcasts as well. So guys, give them support because without them, there is no us. But guys, to everybody who's already supporting us through social media with some interaction, who is subscribed to the podcast and listening to us, who's watching our YouTube videos, I mean, just anything and everything that you're doing to support our podcast, we really just can't thank you enough.
So here's a sentence I thought I'd never say. Today, I watched a video of a man running football routes, catching marshmallows in his mouth.
I saw that video too, and I was like, what are we doing here, people?
And the question posed to us was, where is he going to be drafted? My answer was, Caleb Williams should watch out.
Oh, Lord.
All this meaning to say, no matter how dumb the question is, no matter how out there the question is, we will answer it.
True.
I will watch the tape. Whether or not I want to, wash my eyes out with bleach afterwards, well, that's up to me. But regardless we want to make you guys as happy as possible. So if you have any draft questions coming up, especially free agency questions, if it's Tuesday afternoon, you're like, oh my God, I don't know, Nick Foles, for some reason, is the first name that pops in my head, is to the New England Patriots. What to make of this? And it's just like, exactly. You're just like, I don't know what's going on. And you want to just like someone to figure it out for you. We're here for your live reactions. It might not be on the show, but we are more than happy to, talk with you on YouTube, talk with you on Twitter, Instagram, whatever social media, Threads. I recently just reactivated my Threads account. I know what that is, yeah. Believe it or not, it's like the Facebook response to Twitter after Elon bought it. It's So look, we're even on Threads, and so wherever you want to find us, chances are you can find us there. We're here for you guys. We want to make sure you're up to date as possible. So, guys, please, stay safe. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, and keep watching, everyone.